Okay, everybody, let's call this meeting to order, the public information meeting of the 2021 tax levy. Monday, December 13th at 6 p.m. Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot to say tonight. This is our fifth meeting on this topic. We've had a meeting on August 25th, September 8th, the 13th of September, and the 17th of November. Now, our goal tonight is to take public comments, or the council to take public comments on the upcoming budget and levy. We do have to have our levy certified into the county by the 28th of this month. So if we run into stumbling blocks, which I don't think we will, we should stay right on task with that. The one thing that has changed in this model, actually two things, is I've pushed through the changes from the Teamsters, the latest estimate from Teamsters. That was primarily, we had staffing changes there, as you're aware of. We had a sergeant that left, a new sergeant, and staff earlier in their career come on board, so I pushed those changes through to reflect the latest settlement. Not a huge change, but as we get new information, we adjust the budget accordingly. Now, we know that we'll have other changes to the budget as the year goes on, as things change to take care of timing issues, whether it's equipment for police or finishing projects in the park. And that's what our designated fund balance or our assigned fund balance are for. None of those things will impact the levy. So there were a few questions forwarded to me that are listed as item PI3 in your packet. There were two letters. One was they're both from a Liz Lusky. And the first one was dated December 3rd, and it talks about how do we justify expenditures. The way we justify expenditures is we have these budget meetings. We look at what it takes to run each department and try to make the best decision we can with the resources we have available. One of the other questions talks about a roundabout. So just so we're clear on that, there is no plan in stone for a roundabout. The whole idea for all the talk about the roundabout was to try to get some concept down in writing so we can work with the county and the funding agencies to try to figure out what the best solution for the intersection might be and how to fund it. So that's where those two are at. As far as the budget packet, I think TJ, if you could go to page 2 of that packet. That's your big overall summary page. And the only thing I need to point out, can you go up a little more so we can see the bottom of that page? There we go. In the tan colored area on the bottom, I'm showing the changes from 2021. And our overall levy actually went down, 18,740. We took 158,915 out of the operating side of things. Used 140,000 of that for debt service because we had to make sure we have the funds for our upcoming bond payments, and an overall reduction of 18,740. In the middle of the page, there's a highlighted number, 468,443. That's the number we need to decide what to do with. And when I say that, what I'm looking at is that's going to go up or down based on what the council ultimately decides to do with the road projects and the sewer project. So you might think it's free money. It's not. It depends on what level of bonding you decide to do. If you decide to issue bonds for the road projects, then you can use that to reduce the amount of debt you ultimately issue for the 66 sewer project. So just keep that in mind. That can go up and down, and that'll fluctuate as things changes dependent upon how the bids come in. Okay? If you don't issue bonds for the road projects, if you say we're going to do the 2022 road projects and pay cash for them, you will end up reducing your cash by about $270,000 instead of rebuilding the cash that we spent for projects like the City Hall and the Fire Hall. So just keep that in mind. The overall tax rate is 27.46%, which is a reduction from the tax rate from last year. Now, I can answer questions on the budget or the levy, but I'm not able to answer any questions on why did my valuation change and questions like that. So I'm going to turn it over to the public for comments, questions, concerns.
Anybody from the public have anything? Come on, Tom, you got to have something.
Tom Swenson, 35533 Sandpoint Drive. I've said it at the last two budget meetings, and I'm just going to say it so it's on the record at this one. I don't believe we need a second skid steer for 80,000, and I think you could get by with the snow blower, which would be another 32,000 reduction. In the public works, under engineering, you've got 25,000 budgeted. We don't spend that. Engineering is allocated against projects. So that could be reduced from 25,000 down to like 5,000. In fines and forfeits, there's $6,000 budgeted in the general fund, and there's $6,000 budgeted for the same thing in the police fund. I guess where I'm coming from is I'm not opposed to where you're at with the levy, and I'm not saying to reduce that. I'm saying to be realistic with where you're putting things. I think there's a couple areas you're potentially looking at purchasing land adjacent to the sewer plant. You're going to need money for that. I hope something happens, that somebody contacts Jim Anderson to see if we can do anything about the property behind Andy's before that's gone. So I guess what I'm saying is if you took the 80,000 for the skid steer, the 32,000 for the snow blower, 20,000 for public works engineering, 6,000 that was budgeted twice for fines and forfeits, and put that in a fund. You can just call it future land acquisition. You're still going to have the same levy and everything, but you're not going to have these false balances in accounts that you're not going to spend. Maybe you're going to buy the second skid steer, but I guess what I'm thinking is if you put all those together, you'd probably have 150 or 160,000 that could be designated in a reserve account for land acquisition. Or, Ted's got sewer projects coming up, the clarifier. I don't believe in, lowering the levy and then the next year you got to raise it and it's fluctuating all over. If you can keep the levy relatively flat each year, and that's where I'm just saying you've got some accounts that, to me, they don't make sense how it's being budgeted, but that money could be reallocated in a reserve account for. And if it's not future land acquisition, you guys could, come up with another designated for, and that's sort of your cushion in the budget also for an unexpected, if something happens during the year and you needed to take that money, you'd have it in that reserve account, and the council could make a motion to allocate it if the need came for something else. But that's my comments.
Thanks, Tom. So by approving this levy today, Mike, are we approving all the expenditures that are listed in the budget?
I would do it in two motions. You could approve the levy, the tax levy. And if you want to take a further look at the budget, you can do that too. I would approve them together. With respect to, there are no false numbers in here. They're real numbers and I stand behind them. The comment about the land I would like to address. Now, remember, we took that out of the budget, because we had a separate item in the budget for that, and it was removed during the budget process.
That was for the biosolids land by the sewer plant. I think he was addressing behind Andy's.
He talked about both of them. He was addressing both of them.
Oh, okay.
Now, we've been talking about Andy's land since, what, about 2017, 2018? And we've never really made a decision to move on it. We also brought it up early on in the budget process. If you look back at your budget packets, it was listed in there right up front to say, what do you want to do with it? And we didn't address it. So those are all things that cost money. As far as saying, well, we can save $20,000 here or $5,000 there, we don't know the answers to some of the things that we're going to do yet or what those costs are going to be.
But I'll answer your question, Dave. Yes, those expenditures in the budget are what you are approving.
So you can approve those tonight. Now, if you remember in 2021, earlier this year, we had a budget review and we made a lot of changes to it too. We can do that again next year, when we should be looking at that. So the levy allows you to do the things you want. The other things that you could assign, if you choose to, once you make those decisions, or you can let those flow through into the general fund and rebuild your funds that we overspent on, like the fire hall, that we didn't plan to. So it's really up to the council what you want to do.
Go ahead, Ted.
Could I?
Mike, can I ask a question? We're approving the levy tonight, but if we did purchase a Bobcat or any piece of equipment, we still would bringing that back to council for final approval, right? The
Absolutely.
money is just getting approved tonight.
Yep, we're approving the
actual
budget.
Purchased equipment is not approved until I bring it, or whoever brings it forward.
We're approving
But
our
we've
plan
levied for it.
next year. Yep.
I just,
I mean, we can reallocate. That's not a problem. I do have a question about, we don't have anything in there for, since we just did it, snow removal of the trails. I think we should reallocate $6,000 in general government fines and fees to trails and possibly some of that engineering fees from the Public Works. I don't know exactly what Public Works and what Park and Rec feel is going to be the cost. I guess nobody really knows because we don't know what Mother Nature is going to do, but we should have something. We should have an expenditure account for snow removal on the trails so we can accurately see what it's actually costing us for budgeting.
at this point, we don't track anything as far as. At this time, we don't track anything in our budget as far as any plowing.
And that's why I'm saying we need to get a line item expenditure for trails for snow removal and maintenance, and keep track of your hours on the trails and have it.
This last snowstorm where we got, what, 3-4 inches? It took us all of a little over between a half hour and 45 minutes to do it.
I know, but we need to know what we're doing here as far as budgeting for snow removal on trails, because we're in the dark here. We don't really know. I mean, we've got estimates, but, and I guess it could fluctuate every year based on snowfall, but we should still have a line item there where we're keeping track of hours spent on the trail and any maintenance or supplies issues for that particular expenditure.
TJ showed us quite a graph on what we did last year. Are you going to track the same way again for this year? So I think the tracking part is there.
Okay, but
I don't think the budget is.
I know the budget needs to show that we're budgeting so much for trail and snow, and we need to establish an account for that line item in the budget and put those figures in there. Whatever the council wants to put in there out of that 25,000 and that 6,000. The 6,000 is actually budgeted twice, like Tom says in the budget, and we don't really need 25,000 in engineering and public works because engineering usually is costed out or expended out on the projects. So that would go in the project It wouldn't go in a line item. It'd be in capital outlay instead of engineering.
Sure, so if the council wants to put something in the budget for trails, how tedious do you want Ted and I to get? Down to fuel, down to scraper blades for our plows? I mean, we can get pretty nitty gritty if you would like us, but if you want to keep it general, keep it as an average cost at the end of season, how would you like us to proceed with that if you want to put that in the budget? We could get down to how much salt we use. It would get pretty
Well,
tedious, but we could try to document it.
I'm not nitpicking here. I'm just
No.
saying that even hourly wages should be addressed in the budget for snow removal to see if we want to do it again.
So
Or expand it.
Yeah, or expand it, yeah. You can't budget for something that you don't have any numbers for.
So would you like us to continue to do what I did last year? How much time it took us to plow, how much time it took us to sweep and or snow blow, and then break it down into the depth of snow?
Can't you just hours on the trail?
Do that?
I guess, do you sweep the trails? I don't even know, do you sweep the trails a lot? I don't think you do you?
It's kind of
I've
just
not.
a call that I make depending on how the condition is. I don't like to do it every time because we have things going on, but
Yeah. How deep the leaves are? No, I'm not saying you have to have every nickel there. I'm just saying that if we had an estimate of time spent on the trail, if you don't have any snow that pay period, you know there's nothing for snow removal on trails.
I think what he did for budget purposes, I think would actually, if he did it again, would be pretty good for us.
But Ted, one comment, you said it takes a half hour, 45 minutes for you guys to do it. You're responsible from Ace Hard
We're doing
or
West
West Shore?
Shore, and then somebody had already done the trail by the.
Old folks home?
Yeah, they'd already done, I think the home itself had done it, but.
But what I want you to be realistic about is you gotta put the machine on a trailer, you gotta drive there, you gotta do the trail, you gotta load it back up, you gotta get back to the shop. So,
We utilized the pickup plow the last time for that is light as the snow was, it worked really well.
and that fits on the trail?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but I mean, that's what I would be asking for, is a realistic how much time.
so staff time
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Okay.
Within reason. I mean, not,
We'll keep track of it.
yeah. And then how many times you have to do it, it'd be kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
So that's all good discussion, but, you know, this part of the meeting, let's try to keep it to, let's try
Okay,
to stay.
and that's
public
where I'm
comment.
trying to go with this, is trying to get something in the budget transferred from that 6,000 and that 20,000 into trails, snow removal maintenance. That's all I'm trying to do. This would be the appropriate time to do it. I'm not changing the budget, I'm just transferring it, because we have nothing allocated, and at the last meeting, we decided we were going to remove the snow on all the trails. So I don't see a problem with moving some money into trails maintenance and snow removal.
I don't see a problem with that either, but what I'd like to do is try to keep this portion of the meeting for public comment, so we can get the public's comments.
I thought Dave asked if anybody had any comments, and nobody
Yeah, I
came.
did, and Tom came up.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? So the thing that I want to emphasize or make a point, I'm all for approving this levy as stated. But as far as moving funds around, I want to be able to do that at a later date. And like you said, Ted, approving each one of the purchases or moving forward, we can do that at a later date. But I think land acquisition for this town is extremely important. I kind of have got a sneaky suspicion we've already missed the bus on it, unfortunately. And we're gonna pay for it dearly. But I think we gotta pay attention to looking around at available land and doing something with it. Now, Mike, if we were to spend $500,000 on land this year, we would be able to do that, right? We wouldn't be able to pay cash for it, but we would be able to do it.
Your only source is cash, because it's not funded, you know, and if, I mean, the first thing you'd want to do is you'd want to figure out, what do I want to do with the land I'm looking to purchase? And for example, if it's for a park, then you'd want to bring it up through the park commission. And, you know, TJ's team would figure out what the best plan for it is, come back to the council for a solution. If it was for something Public Works related, you'd want to run it up through Ted's department and have a plan for it instead of just coming up to the council meeting and say, I'd like to purchase this land for X and not have a plan or how to pay for it, because right now your only source is existing funds, because we reduced the levy. Now, if you look at, just for the sake of argument, if you go, I'm going to have TJ take us over to, just give me a second here, we'll get the right page so you can put it up.
So while he's looking that up, Ted, did you approach the owner of the property by the Public Works? Have you done anything with that?
I have on 3 occasions on 3 occasions I've tried to get in touch with him, and as of yet I've been unable to. He has not been home, so somebody else will stand there. So.
But that's another lurking thing out there.
Yes, I have been trying. So
And we don't have, do we have funds kind of appropriated for that or not?
no, that's one of the things that Mike told you that we took
Yeah.
back out. So
We were gonna bond for it.
that was the thing we thought about bonding for it as part of the clarifier project. If
Yeah,
you remember
okay.
right.
I was just curious if anything had happened. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so I had TJ pull up page 13 of your packet, which for TJ, that's page 15. TJ, can you go, if you look over on, can you go down to the bottom a little more? Okay. So if you look at the two numbers on the bottom right-hand of that page, that 18,740 negative, that's our current levy. That's how much our overall levy went down this year at a rate of 27.46%. Now, if you go one column to the right, what I did is I said, what would our levy look like if we just kept the rate the same? At the same rate and just let the dollars flow through. Had we done that, that would have provided you $453,859 of cash to purchase that land or not issue bonds. So that's the impact of, I mean, the only reason I'm showing that to you is that's the difference in rate change versus market value. Now, the one thing you have to understand too is in the last 2 years, if I can have TJ, if you can go up a couple pages, go to page 7. Now, page 7 is our proposed rates for going into 2022. Now, there's a big number there right about in the middle of the page, more towards the right, where it says new construction. It's abbreviated. 13,208,890, that's new construction coming on the tax rolls. That's not increases in existing properties, that's new properties coming on the tax rolls for page 22. Now, if I can get TJ to go to page 10. Last year, that number was 22,696,232. So in the last 2 years, we've had $33 million of new construction come on the tax rolls. That, along with market value adjustments to existing properties, is what's driving your rate down. So you've got large increases that you are likely not going to see every year, so just be aware of that. Questions?
But we cannot go up from where we're at today, can we? I mean,
Not. You can stay where you're at, or you can go down.
go down.
Yep.
So I'm going to make a motion, we approve the levy as stated.
Oh,
Huh?
No.
Oh, it's for the next one. Yeah, okay.
the resolution's in the packet.
Yeah, the way this will work is we'll finish the comments, the public comments part. If we have a,
Any other public comments? Come on, Tom.
This woman did want her comments read into the record.
do you want to read them?
Nope.
Well, somebody's got to, if it's got to be read into the record, if she wants it read at the meeting.
Which, Liz?
People are watching, if she wants it read, I think you have to do it. Otherwise, the public don't hear it.
I'll read it. All of it? I know, Liz.
Well, she wants it read in the record, I think.
I'll read it. That's right. Okay, Mayor Nevin and council members, I have questions on the proposed budget for 2022. I would raise them at the next council meeting, but will be out of town due to a family commitment. The purpose of this email is to address my concerns in advance of that meeting. I see significant increases in year-over-year capital spending for the equipment and road repairs. If I'm understanding the budget files correctly, the two categories total over $1 million in taxpayer dollars. For each of these projects, what is the process to justify the expenditures to the city council and taxpayers before money is actually spent? In my work experience, it would be a standard practice to plan based on unexpected useful life for repairs, maintenance, and replacement of equipment. That budget or plan, however, would not guarantee that the funds would be approved for expenditure. When the time came to replace the equipment, the project would have to be financially justified. My experience is that in distribution, examples of equipment we might replace would be delivery trucks, forklifts. To replace equipment like this, justification might include excessive downtime due to equipment breakdowns. It might also include excessive cost of repairs where money would be better spent to replace than to continue to repair. A proposal for capital dollars would also include options considered besides replacement. Oftentimes, a well-maintained and/or lower-use piece of equipment could be kept well beyond its predefined useful life. I would suggest this could be true for road repairs as well. As I recall, last year, a group of responsible citizens saved the community money by asking for the road repairs to be delayed. As the City Council, for each of these capital expenditures, what inspection of the equipment and roads has been done? What justification has been provided by each department manager? We shouldn't spend taxpayer dollars based on a schedule, but based on a need. I look to the City Council to make fiscally responsible decisions for the taxpayers across Lake. To me, that requires an in-depth and critical review of all major expenditures. I look forward to your response and to hopefully see further discussion of these items in the notes from the December 13th meeting. Please feel free to call me if you would like to discuss. And then the next page is a separate email. Mayor Nevin and City Council, due to out-of-town family commitment, will not attend. I'm going to go through that. This summer, our Lake Association had a guest speaker from the National Loon Center. It was very informative. Based on discussions with other community members, in my opinion, there are mixed feelings about the Loon Center and what it will mean to the community. While we are excited to have the Center for Cross Lake, we are concerned about the intersection at the core of Andes and what will happen there as a roundabout gets added along the sidewalks, etc., to support the center. We recently learned the property behind Andes is for sale. Has the city considered purchasing that property for city use rather than what appears to be a residence? The property could potentially add parking for the area and include public restrooms and picnic tables. We would suggest it could be a worthwhile expenditure for the city to purchase a property to provide relief for what sounds like it will be a congested center of town. Thank you, Liz Lusky. Okay. So we can't increase the levy. If we were to try to pursue some kind of property or something, we would have to take it out of the budget that we're approving. Is that not true? Yeah.
Correct.
So
Reallocate.
reallocate. Tom, come on up.
I'm just not sure if I'm clear on what's been said. Mike wants to concentrate on adopting the levy, which you need to do, but it's like, we don't have to adopt the budget now. And then you said, well, I want to look at the budget later. In my 33 years in city government, the city always had their budget approved by year end. Then, just like last year, if need be, you amend the budget. But I hope we don't go into tonight's meeting and just adopt a levy. And I mean, what's that tell the department heads? They don't even, come January, they don't even know what their budget is for next year because we're going to have a meeting sometime in the future to talk more about the budget. I hope we don't go through tonight and just adopt the levy and not adopt a budget even if you don't take any of my suggestions and you want to adopt the budget as is, there's money that can be reallocated if need be, but
Well, that's not approving the budget then, if we're gonna reallocate, right?
no, at a later date, at any council meeting, if there's a need, you can make a motion to amend the budget to move this amount of money from this account over to that account, so you have money in the account to meet a.
I'm just a little confused though, because you're saying the department heads won't know what the budget is going out of this meeting, but yet we're gonna change the budget anyway.
No, what I'm saying is if you don't adopt a budget tonight for 2022,
Yep.
come January 1st, the department heads have no budget. There's no adopted budget for them to go by. So at what point then is the council gonna get back and say, okay, now let's start talking about the budget? You know, Mr. Schrupp won't be here, and, you know, all I'm saying is, I've never seen a city that didn't adopt their budget along with the levy. And then if need be, in the following year, if you need to make adjustments based on, you know, a storm that comes through or whatever oddball thing happens, then you amend the budget simply by motions at the council to transfer money from this account to that account.
That's all I was saying, Thomas. I just wanna make sure that we can do that.
That's why I don't understand why you don't want to move something to trails, snow removal, maintenance.
It's item B2 in the next meeting,
Right. Yeah, and to
approve the budget.
Tom's
It
point.
is, but that isn't what Mike said a
No,
little
what
while
I
ago.
said was you have those options. I've never seen the council not approve the budget at the same meeting too. The budget is you're giving the authority, your spending authority for the next year. And that doesn't mean there are things that come up that you want to change or you want to reallocate based on things that happen subsequent to year end. Now, just so you know, I would stick with Tom's recommendation to approve both tonight at the 7 o'clock meeting. When we get into 2022 and something comes up and we need to make changes, then you come back to the council and say, here's the changes we think you should make. But I'm not comfortable going into the next year without a budget for the reasons you stated.
You don't have the budget in the resolution with the levy? Approval of the budget? In with the levy resolution? Do you have a separate resolution for budget approval?
Yes.
You do.
I don't have
didn't
a
get it in my
separate
packet.
resolution you can approve. I don't have a separate resolution for just the budget. Typically, they're done together, or you can do them separate.
But it's not in this one.
That's the resolution.
We have
For the
not
levy.
done that in the past.
You've just made a motion to
Approve
approve
them.
expenditures in the
And
amount of
revenue.
and revenues in the
Yeah.
amount of.
Yep.
And it goes back into that budget package.
Can't we just make a motion that we accept the budget, the 2022 as presented?
Yes, you can.
Since we're not going to make any changes to it?
Yes, you can do that too.
All right, well, any other public input? We got you all thoroughly confused now? You guys have any comments or questions or anything?
I'm good.
Take a break.
I think the only comment I have is, you know, I think in the first month, we're gonna see some big quotes for the sewer, and to what you were talking about, Dave, that, you know, we'll have to, you know, if Ted would come up January 1 and ask for a new payloader, or what, skid steer lower, we may have to ask him to wait until we see how these budgets are coming in, you know, if that's the case. So I think I'm good with it the way it is. And I think on Andy's, you know, I think somehow we have to, you know, I've heard the comment about people wanting to buy that, but buying the land is just one part of the situation. It's going to turn into another Perkins Road, and we need to understand what do we want to do with it. If you recall, you know, there's a roundabout that's planned for 2024. Tim Bray's working on that. if you recall the apartment building that was gonna go in that spot, how they talked about, no, well, the county says we can't have the roads that way, you can't make a left-hand turn if you're heading north on 3, we want that blocked. So there's all sorts of things that are involved there, but I would suggest that we put our heads together, you know, and try to figure out what would you want to do with it and how much it costs and when do you want to do it. And it looks like there's time. If 2024 is when they're doing their roundabout, it might be good to look at something and target something down the road. So,
Dave, I agree with you, but we're going to miss the opportunity
right.
waiting. I think we probably already have missed the opportunity. And there's not another place like that. So it's going to be a loss to the city. We're going to have missed it. I think it's parking and trails and sitting, whether there be a public restroom or whatever. That's the plan, but as we know, plans take a while to develop. So while in the development stage, we're going to miss the boat. We're going to miss it.
Dave, I think Nancy has a question. Did you have a question, Nancy?
No.
No? Okay.
So, you know, whatever we do with that, but my fear and my point is that we're going to miss the opportunity. I think I've said enough about the budget and the levy for this meeting. Does anybody else have anything to say about it?
I move we adjourn.
Second? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.